Let me first express my grateful thanks to Mr. Caudle Green for inviting me for this presenting my talk, and I am talking on information accessibility, marginality and localized AI. We must understand that information accessibility is basically linked to different factors which are also rooted in structural inequalities, cultural domination or subordination, or access to formal education, access to resources. All these are important for us to keep in mind. That is where information accessibility is influenced by all these factors. And it is important because in an unequal and pluricultural society, actually the dominant groups or dominant individuals actually control the resources. They not only control the resources, they also control the infrastructure, decision making, governance, and even the knowledge that is generated or created. And we have plenty of examples in the history as far as how the dominant sections, including the colonial powers, how they have subdued and also took over the resources of the indigenous and marginal communities. This is something is important because information accessibility is also important because it means some kind of a power. That is where technology further complicated these issues, in the sense it accelerated the inequalities and domination, because control over the technology is also control over the resources and other things. So, AI has been making a lot of strides in different fields, and it is also expected to build basically that is assumption, build better human societies. However, one of the important questions that arises is whether AI can play any positive role in actually bridging this gap of inequalities, whether it is in the area of governance or in the area of decision making or sharing of information or resources or infrastructure, knowledge, whatever we have, in order to build an inclusive society, because that is essential for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. Now, information accessibility and marginality are also important to be kept in mind, because we talked in the I said earlier that information accessibility is linked to structural inequality. Therefore, we must understand that, because information and knowledge are basically important resources. Once it becomes a resource, control over that resource becomes a basis for making people marginal or to put them aside. So, information accessibility therefore plays a very important role to bridge the gap between the control and marginality. If you give access to them, then the control over the resource becomes less and accessibility becomes wider. Therefore, it can minimize the gap between the control and marginality. So, in the indigenous societies, all members have access to general information which is required in order to eke out their livelihoods. I am not talking about, there are specialized kind of informations which some specialists hold that that generally is transmitted linearly through generations and passed on from sometimes it is given to only those who are interested in that, or maybe hereditarily it is passed on. It depends on the kind of skills that a person have to be given, but nevertheless the knowledge that is passed on over generations, it is an accretion of the knowledge, and that knowledge is never used for any kind of gain, personal gain, or any kind of pecuniary or other kind of expectations in turn. It is always used for the welfare of the society. So, information accessibility, if we really look at it and also look at the AI and inclusiveness, there is a important relationship among them. That is what we need to understand, that accessibility to information actually brings inclusiveness in the society. This is what we were talking about. In a multicultural society, information and accessibility, they get influenced by number of socio-cultural and economic factors. So, information accessibility can be made available to all sections of the people only when it is provided in one's mother tongue, because this is how do people understand, because they can understand things better, the concepts and other things better in their own mother tongue. So, therefore, the passing on the information or information accessibility, if it is made available in the mother tongue, what it helps is, it helps in preserving the multicultural and multilingual fabric of the society. That is what is important, because it is in a way helping to build better kind of social systems, and whereby because it accessibility increases, once it is done, the information to the marginal sections and in their language, what it does is it strengthens their economic base. Thereby what happens is, it helps in building more inclusive societies. In this context, AI can play a very important role in enhancing access to the information, which can actually reach all sections of society. That is where the advantage of AI is there, and this is possible only if we can develop AI in a more localized manner. That is what we call it as localizing AI, which is built on local socio-cultural and cultural ethos and knowledges. So, information accessibility and sustainable development are also linked, because localization of artificial intelligence can have multiple benefits for the society, and also for the people who develop these localized AI, some of the people who work in the software industry or industry people. So, major contribution of such kind of AI applications actually will be helping in building sustainable inclusive societies. So, that is where we need to have more sensitized kind of approaches to that. So, localized AI can effectively be used in order to solve not only the socio-economic problems with dealing with particular societies, but also it can address the issues relating to environmental concerns, which are today we are facing, because in many parts of the globe we are realizing that the significance of indigenous knowledge pertaining to this. This is where localized AI can help in finding solutions. That means, AI can help in predicting and also in preventing different problems related to societies and environment. That means, only developing localized AI can only help in increasing the pace and the process of attaining the sustainable development goals. This is very important for us. And now, given this, I just wanted to have some reflections on this. What is that we need to do it, how we go about it. Now, one thing is, marginality can be reduced. We may not be able to erase it totally, but it can be reduced only by providing a basis for inclusiveness. That means, if we provide a basic kind of in the structure, a basis for inclusiveness, this can at least reduce that. So, that means, information accessibility actually helps in building inclusive and sustainable societies. That is where if you want to do that, what is required is, we need to encourage building of localized AI, and that is, in fact, it is more like a decentralized approach to artificial intelligence. And it is pertinent also to note that localized AI can resolve many problems, especially in multilingual and multicultural societies. And it also enhances accessibility of information much more easily, because people understand it is communicated in their own language. Further, it will help in the participation of different sections of the society in decision making process. Thereby what happens is, even we will be able to do better in achieving sustainable development goals in 2030. So, in this context, the efforts of UNESCO IFAP are really commendable. Thank you.